thoughts and told him that she wouldn't let some boy just take her place in the academy. Then Yuri tells Eudelia that all the exams have already ended and that there is no way to change the situation. Then Eudelia puts her hand into her chest and takes out a white glove. After she takes out the glove, she throws the glove at Rui and challenges him to a duel. Everyone around was in unprecedented shock from the fact that the granddaughter of the legendary hero challenges a simple village boy. Eudelia tells Rui that if she defeats him, he will refuse to continue to enter the academy. If Rui still manages to defeat Eudelia, then she will become his personal slave. Yuri tried with all his might to dissuade Rui from accepting the challenge, because it would be a completely irrational decision. On the one hand, Rui thought that he did not need a slave at all, but on the other hand, he had the opportunity to learn something about the hero from Eudelia. Despite persuasion from the side, Rui raises the glove, and thus he accepts Eudelia's challenge to participate in a duel. After a few minutes, Rui and Eudelia were already ready to start the battle, while the rest of the students watched it all. Regas, one of the teachers of the academy, was very worried about the duel, because if there were victims among the students, then he could suffer a heavy punishment. Yuri then reassured the teacher, telling him that he took full responsibility for himself, because he knew that deep down, the teacher also wanted to know what Rui was like. However, Yuri said that the teacher should also judge, which at first did not suit him very much. After that, Regas comes out and dictates the rules of the duel, in which the winner will be the one whose opponent loses consciousness or surrenders on his own. The teacher also added that he can end the fight himself if he considers that one of the opponents is no longer able to continue the battle. Regas also reminded the duel participants that killing during the battle is forbidden, after which Regas announced the beginning of the duel. Eudelia thought that if Rui surrendered as quickly as possible, then the duel would end quickly. After the announcement of the duel, Eudelia took out her sword, with which she was going to defeat Rui. At first, Rui was also going to take out his sword, which Rio left him, but he remembered her words that Rui should only use his sword when there is a real threat to his life. Then Rui changes his mind about using the dragon sword in the duel, and he decided to duel with his bare hands, which surprised Eudelia at first. Eudelia was already ready to strike Rui with the first blow, while not forgetting once again to remind herself that she was the granddaughter of the legendary hero. After that, Eudelia, with all her anger, ran towards the unarmed Rui. Then Rui puts his hand forward and uses the Qigong technique, Golden Cocoon, which completely absorbed all the damage from Eudelia's strike. Eudelia was shocked at how Rui was able to deflect the blow of her sword, which is able to cut through steel with ease. After repelling the blow, Rui says that he is not a demon king, not a dragon king, not a hero, not even a hero's grandson, but that he is just an ordinary village boy. Eudelia was still shocked at how easily Rui countered her attack with her bare hands. The Golden Cocoon technique makes only a certain area of the wizard harder and more durable, while the Steel Cocoon technique makes the entire body of the wizard hard, but at the same time, his defense was less durable than that of the Golden Cocoon. Also, the Golden Cocoon did not interfere with the free movement of the protected limb, which made it very effective. Eudelia again tried to inflict some damage on Rui, but he was able to easily repel this attack as well. Eudelia didn't understand how Rui could deflect her blows so easily, since she was a skilled swordswoman. Then she decides to change her strategy to use many petal blades instead of a sword, which flew towards Rui. But despite the speed and number of those blades, Rui was able to dodge each blade without any difficulty. Then Eudelia decides to use a myriad of these blades so that they will surely hit Rui and neutralize him. The teacher thought it was too much, and he decides to stop the duel, but Yuri decides to stop the teacher. Yuri drew the teacher's attention to how confident and calm Rui's demeanor was, which could mean he could handle it with ease. Rui was surprised at how many petals were flying in his direction, and he felt that he needed to use very strong magic here. Then Rui decides not to run away from the petals, but on the contrary, to run towards these petals. Then Rui makes a high jump and uses a magical technique of a wide flame, which burned all the petals flying in his direction. Eudelia was in unimaginable shock at how Rui could deflect both sword and magic attacks so easily. Then Eudelia was overtaken by childhood memories when she trained long and hard with her father. Her father told her about the hero's mark, which no one could get, and he told her that if she trained long and hard, sooner or later she would get such a mark, which in turn motivated her greatly. After that, a crowd of adults turned out to be next to her, who in every way touched her and said that she would definitely become the same hero as her grandfather. Eudelia promised that she would train all the time, and that when she grew up she would become a real hero who would protect civilians from various threats. Gathering her thoughts, Eudelia again was going to strike Rui with another blow. Moments before the impact, Eudelia was determined not to let Rui take her place in the academy. At the moment of impact, Rui uses the golden cocoon qigong technique again to deflect the entire attack once again. Then Rui remembered those very moments from his life when Elena scoffed at him in every possible way, who believed that he had absolutely no talents in mastering magic. At that moment, Rui thought that Eudelia had also had a very hard time before, and that she devoted all her time to training in order to become one of the best. Then Rui decides to apply another qigong technique, the golden sword grab, with which he not only stops Eudelia's next attack, but also grabs the sword in his palm. Eudelia was very frightened at how Rui was able to grab onto her weapon so easily with his bare hands. After grabbing the sword, Rui prepared to use the next Meteor Fist Qigong technique, which greatly increased the power of his fist attacks. Eudelia considered that these were her last seconds of life, and that she was unable to defeat Rui. However, Rui's fist manages to stop his fist within inches of Eudelia's face, leaving her unharmed. Rui decided to convince Eudelia that the duel had ended in his favor and that they no longer needed to continue the battle. Then Eudelia was very frightened, and she began to cry while not understanding how Rui was able to defeat her so easily. Rui was very frightened by the state of Eudelia in which she is now. Then Rui noticed that no one is on them now, and then he decides to create a small dark space in which no one can notice both of them. Then a large black cube appeared in front of the rest of those present, through which Rui and Eudelia could not be seen. After that, Rui decides to check on Eudelia's condition and try to calm her down. A little later, Eudelia noticed that everything around had disappeared and that she and Rui were completely alone in a dark room. Rui explained to Eudelia that he created a special cube that blocked all outside light and extraneous sounds so that no one would see Eudelia in this form. After that, Rui immediately began to draw Eudelia, who was very much frightened. Eudelia was both frightened and surprised by such concern for her, which made her very embarrassed. Eudelia decided to ask Rui why he was doing all this, despite how rudely she spoke to him. Rui only said that if someone got into some kind of trouble, then he just takes it and helps the person. Hearing this, Eudelia remembered how when she was little, she also dreamed of helping people in need. Eudelia thought about how she had not understood such a simple truth before. She then apologizes to Rui for her behavior and accepts her defeat. She also admitted that Rui is much stronger than her, not only in combat and magic, but also in her soul. Rui said that Eudelia also showed her martial skills well, and that he was especially surprised by her last magic. Rui was about to remove the black cube, but Eudelia said that friends refer to each other as you, and that they are now friends. Rui did not object to this, and they shook hands as the black cube began to collapse. The audience finally saw how Rui and Eudelia finally got out of the big cube. After that, Eudelia told all the spectators that she was giving up and that she fully acknowledged Rui's victory. Everyone was shocked by such a statement from the granddaughter of the legendary hero, and Eudelia said that instead of her, Rui should study at the academy. Master Regus only reminded Eudelia of the promise she must keep in case she loses. Rui remembered Eudelia's promise to become his slave, but he said that he did not need a slave at all. Eudelia said that she would not accept the fact that Rui refuses to comply with all conditions, and that she is ready to become his slave. Then Eudelia began to insist that if she lost, then she must become Rui's personal slave. After that, she grabbed Rui's hand and created a slave mark on her hand, with which Eudelia must now do whatever Rui wants from her. Eudelia was not upset, but on the contrary, she was ready to follow all the instructions of Rui. Rui was only once again embarrassed that the granddaughter of the legendary hero had become his personal slave. After the duel, Rui and Eudelia were met at the academy by Yuri, who wanted to ask them about the results of their exams. Yuri said that he could not imagine before that someone from the hero's family would become someone's slave, which greatly embarrassed and angered Eudelia. Yuri also wanted to find out from them who they are now for each other. Judelia only said that she didn't tell Rui because she believes that if she had told him earlier that she wanted to be friends with him, that he would have tried to stay away from her. Rui did not understand anything, and then Yuri decides to introduce himself to Rui as Yuri von Exodoria, who was the current prince of Escador. Rui was shocked by what he heard, as he could not even imagine that he would personally know someone from the royal family. Then Rui decides to address Yuri as a master, to which Yuri himself said that friends should not call each other master. After that, Yuri asked Rui if he had a place to stay for the night, since it was clear from his appearance that he was not from the capital. Rui said that he had not thought about it at all, because he expected to solve such issues as they arise. Yuri said that he would try to somehow resolve the issue of Rui's place of residence. Yuri said that Rui could spend the night at his place, and that he would be well taken care of there, so Rui wouldn't have to think about paying. Then Judelia considered Yuri's generosity too suspicious, suggesting that he had some reason for this. Yuri also said that now there is a big shortage of population in the capital, and if the Academy's rating increases thanks to students like Rui, then students from other countries will go to the capital. Yuri also added that if Rui goes to the Academy, Yuri will support Rui in everything. Rui thought that if Yuri would help him, then it would be much easier for him to get comfortable, and then it would be easier for him to find the necessary information about the hero. And after such thoughts, he decides to become a student of the Academy. That night, Rui spent the night in Yuri's room, and the next day he was going to look for information about the hero. As soon as Rui went outside, he saw Judelia near the entrance, who had been waiting all morning for him to come out. Rui didn't expect to see Judelia, and she said that she just wanted to come to Rui. So that Judelia would not think that something was wrong, he told her that he was very glad to see her, after which her resentment changed to joy. After that, Judelia invites Rui to take a walk with her while she will show him various places. Then Rui and Judelia walked around the capital all day, having visited various places. During the walk, Rui thought that now he is in great debt to Judelia, and that he now wants to free Destarossa and Rio. By doing so, he himself will devalue everything that the legendary hero has done for this world. Then Rui remembered his last night with Destarossa and Rio, when they all discussed together that the hero might still be alive now. Destarossa said that since the hero was able to create a place where no one ages like the infinite, then he could very well find a way to become virtually immortal. Then Rui said that since he locked Destarossa and Rio here, he is bad, and when he finds the hero, he will kill him. Then Rio said that there was no way they could kill the hero, since he was too strong for anyone to defeat him. Destarossa considered that the hero could not just attack and imprison them and Rio here, and he must have some good reasons for this. These words did not convince Rui in any way, and he still wanted to finish off the hero, since he could not just forgive him for the fact that they were here. Judelia noticed that something was wrong with Rui, to which he replied that everything was fine with him. Then Rui came to his senses and he decides to learn something from Judelia about the legendary hero, and she considered that Rui is one of her grandfather's regular fans. Judelia said that she does not know much about her grandfather, since 300 years have passed since he disappeared. Then Judelia tells Rui that despite this, she has several family items, among which were also her grandfather's things, which interested Rui very much. One such item was Frau Gerasos's sword, which Judelia used in her duel with Rui, and which was passed down in the hero's family from generation to generation. Rui began to look at the sword and could not take his eyes off him, because while he was looking at the sword, for some reason, he just felt good in his soul. When Judelia handed the sword to Rui, the sword began to emit unusual energy, and Rui thought that the sword imbued Rui with an unusual magical power. After a few seconds, Rui returned the sword back to Judelia, after which he felt some unusual sensation from the sword. It was getting close to night, and Rui told Judelia that it was already late for a walk, and that both of them should already go home. At first, Rui wanted to walk Judelia home, but she invited him to spend the night with her. Once alone with each other, Rui thanks Judelia for such a wonderful day, in order to somehow dilute the situation that has suddenly appeared. Judelia supported Rui and said that she would also like to spend the day together sometime. At the same time, Judelia thought that she had a unique opportunity to make Rui her. Eudelia remembered how many guys from her environment began to confess their feelings to her when they found out that she was the granddaughter of a legendary hero. Despite the mutual interest in the boys, Eudelia did not meet with these boys since they were much weaker than her. During all this time, Rui was the only one who was finally able to surpass her. Unexpectedly for Rui, Eudelia reminded him that she was his slave. Then Eudelia said that she could do whatever he wanted for him without any exceptions. After that, Eudelia took Rui's hand and put it on her chest. Rui remembered again that very last night when Destarossa told him that even though he loves them, he should not burden his fate. Destarossa told Rui that she and Rio loved him very much, but that they would both be very happy if he found someone he would love for the rest of his life. Rio said that among all races, only humans can have one partner, while male dragons can have several females at once. Destarossa said that male demons are also not limited to one individual, and aristocratic demons can have several dozen females at once. Rui remembered the words of Destarossa that if he finds such a person with whom he wants to connect his life, then he must act. Rio told Destarossa that she was the type to get jealous all the time, after which Rio and Destarossa got into a bit of a fight again. At first, Rui thought that he began to communicate with Eudelia only in order to learn something about the hero from her. However, after the duel and walk together, she became more and more attracted to him. Then Rui realized that Eudelia had become the very person whom he wanted to protect from dangers and with whom he would live all his life. After such thoughts, Rui decided to act, and he immediately kissed Eudelia. After a long kiss, Rui pushed Eudelia onto the bed and started taking off her shirt. Rui decided not to stop at the shirt, and he decides to take off her underwear. At one point, Eudelia felt that they were rushing things too much and wanted to stop. Rui reassured Eudelia and promised her that tonight he would be as gentle as possible with her, which calmed her down a bit. After that, Rui began to undress, and Eudelia was afraid that he simply would not fit in her. But Rui no longer listened to Eudelia, and he penetrated her, from which Eudelia experienced such unusual sensations for the first time. The next day, Rui and Eudelia were heading to the academy, and along the way, Eudelia did not stop complaining about unbearable pain. Rui suggested that she use her regeneration magic, to which Eudelia only pushed Rui and told him to think carefully about his behavior. Then Eudelia asked Rui to become her boyfriend and take all the responsibility. Ultimately, Rui decided to take responsibility and agree to Elena's proposal, despite his doubts and fear of change. Of course, the girl was completely surprised by this sudden turn of events, and it made her heart beat faster than she ever expected. A stranger approached the young couple and asked a question, wondering if they were by chance applicants. With obvious confidence, the guy expressed the opinion that they were an extremely frail and defenseless couple, which prompted them to think about their vulnerability in this situation. In addition, they showed interest and asked if the girl was the granddaughter of some hero or famous person. When the stranger tried to get closer to the girl, she firmly pushed him away and warned that if he approached again, she would take extreme measures to protect herself, including even possible violence. Michael, that was the guy's name, told her with a pleading voice to refrain from such threats and hateful words. He tried to convince her of his friendliness and intention not to pose a threat. Rui suddenly felt the need to apologize to them, even though there was no clear reason for such an action. Elena felt pleasantly embarrassed to hear the guy openly express his affection for her in front of others, and her heart began to beat faster at such unexpected sincerity. Michael didn't like the situation and decided to use his magical abilities to overcome the guy and show his strength. The main character felt puzzled about the motives of Michael, who decided to use magic in the center of the city, and tried to unravel what goals could be behind this inexplicable action. Of course, he couldn't just ignore it and decided to intervene to stop the stranger and prevent the possible consequences of his magical actions. He decided to use the stone machine gun in an attempt to stop Michael and his magical actions. This decisive action yielded results. Michael flew several meters away and lost his balance, unable to stand on his feet after the force of the stone machine gun. His comrades began to worry about him and tried to calm Michael down, showing deep regret and remorse to Rui and Elena for what happened, trying to restore peace and make everything okay. The girl agreed with a smile to the guy's proposal to move on. realizing that this episode with Michael was behind her and they could continue their adventure. Since time was not on their side, they had to move more quickly and hurry,